Good evening, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's having a great night, great day, a great everything. Good evening. Going to be talking about Miss Lori today. I don't know why I called her Miss, but I did. I didn't mean to. I don't know why I gave her that title. What's up, Eddie? Hello, TLC Bell. What's going on with this weather in Ohio? It's cold. It was supposed to be nice. Hey, Scorpelina. Hey, Sergeant. I'm going to go back up in the chat a little bit. Margot. I know somewhere we're right on the cusp of 7.6. I think we're like right at 7.6. I'm like, oh my gosh, just get over a little bit more. Makes me feel better when I'm over a little more. I'm going to get my camera on here. Because, yeah, I just like it. Because sometimes I think that, like, I don't know, like some days I don't know what it is. Like, I won't post a video, I won't say anything, and I'll like look at my subscriber count and it'll go down like 4 or something. It'll drop like all of a sudden. I'm like, so I'm thinking it's like bots or something that kind of like, try to get into the chats or something. And then like, since mine's usually on subscriber only mode, which I need to get that on for tonight, subscriber only mode, then, it usually like helps with that. So let me, get everything set up. I haven't really gotten everything set up tonight, so I'm a little off on my game tonight. But what's new, What's new? I tell you a kind of a funny story that happened to me. It's not really that funny. So I live in a town that I really don't know anybody here. I don't know anybody here. And I don't mind it. Like, I like it that way. I grew up in a small town, so where I grew up, everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows everybody's business, and they know, you just know too much. You know what I mean? So I'm at the grocery store tonight, and when I left my last job, I left because my body was breaking, literally. And the girl that I worked for one store, she worked for another store. She was like my mom in a way, like. She really kind of took over that role when my mom passed away and I moved here because she's the only person I've really known, and she's like 52, 53, so she's like a little bit older than me, and like, I don't know, she kind of just took over that like motherly kind of role. She doesn't have kids or anything, and so that's kind of like what I was. But when I left my job, it was like, well, I just didn't talk to her ever again because she was in the other store, and so I don't know, it was just a big thing. And so I saw her at the grocery store tonight. And of course, every aisle I need to go down, she's in that aisle. And I'm like, this woman never eats. Like, I'm not saying that, like, to be funny. I'm saying it, like, she really doesn't eat a lot. And if she does, she goes out to eat. And I'm like, what is she doing in a grocery store? So then I'm trying to like fight and like, just stay away from her. And I'm trying to use my one eye as like my crutch, because I keep running into her, like literally. So I'm just, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. So I'm like doing this, like putting my head down. I mean, it was bad, guys. Do you guys ever do that? Go somewhere and you just try to like avoid people? Then I saw one of the guys he just does like maintenance here at our apartment. But he's just smiling at me. I'm just like, ain't got time. I had my headbuds in. I'm just like, can't you see these things, y'all? What is a tender sprout? I want to know. It is summer. It is going fast. It's going good. I like it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. It is. It's going quick. I love it. Yes, all of the time, Chelsea Bell. Well, you're from this area though too. Oh my, well, and the thing is, she lives in downtown Dayton. They live in like this beautiful like loft apartment, and so she used to come to Beaver Creek because she worked in Beaver Creek, but she quit this company that we worked for too. So I'm like, what is she doing here? Like, and I don't know what it was. Okay, so I'm going to tell you another secret. I've literally been living in the same, like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like 4 pairs of sweatpants for this whole like winter. Like, they're just comfortable. I just like to be comfortable, when I'm like, just even running my errands nowadays. I like to be comfortable. I don't even want to put on a pair of leggings. Like, I'm not even down for that. So I've literally been living in these all winter, these sweatpants. And today is the first day I actually like dressed up. Like, my pants match my shirt. I'm wearing like a little 2-piece. I don't know, some higher being was telling me to dress up because this woman is like my mom, like I said, and she's like prim and proper, and like, I don't know, she just makes you want to be prim and proper. So I was like, thank God I had my shit together today, sort of had it together until I saw her. Then all hell broke loose. But I did watch the 2 Nancy Grace videos. I just really can't get you some real them, except for that I can remember they're very funny. The first one is extremely funny. Nancy is in like a whole different mood on this one. The first video I'm going to show you. So, you work from home? Oh yeah, no. See, I do too. That's why I like to work at home. And like I don't know anybody around here. Like my customers that I had when I worked at the boutique, I don't see them because what it was when I started working at my own boutique, it was COVID. So the whole time that I worked there, we had masks on until I left. I left in 2021. Yeah, and that's when I started my own boutique. So this is my second year. And I was like, man, I was trying to avoid her like the plague, but I couldn't. I was like getting ready to go down to get some cocoa, some chocolate cocoa, and she's in the freaking baking aisle. I'm like, what are you doing here, ma'am? You work from home too, Jan? Does anybody not work from home? Dressed to impress. I'm like, at least I had on like a necklace, some necklaces today, and like a 2-piece outfit, and I had on some nice shoes. Like, I mean, I wear like nice shoes, but sometimes I'll just wear like some like open-toed, like my Birks. I actually put on like loafers today. I don't know, but that's my story. That's I needed to get it off my chest. I was like, oh my gosh, I was shaking so bad. Like I'm still shaking, and this happened like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. But yeah, I was like, I need to talk to my people. I need to talk to my people. So if you guys don't mind, hit that like button and we'll get this party started. Oh, you never went back? Oh man, after COVID? I do release of information. Oh, okay. Is that like insurance stuff? David, I wish I could wear a uniform. I used to say that all the time. I used to say it all the time. Because like when I worked at a boutique, I loved to dress up. I loved it. I lived for it. I lived and loved it. And I sold so many clothes for the other stores wearing their clothes. So I love doing it. But now that I own my own boutique, I'm more of like, I want to be relaxed, which this is actually from my boutique, this little 2-piece. I have one left in this. It's cute. 2-piece outfit. It's a size extra large too. And it's actually, they run big, but oh, PNC Mortgage. Okay. We used to do our banking at PNC when I worked at the boutique that I used to work at. You have a foot drop, Scorpelina? They thought that I was going to have that. And I have to wear a brace called an AFO, so my shoe options are super limited and mostly ugly. Oh my gosh, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Like, my foot has metal in it, and then I have such high arches, like extremely, extremely high. To where I have to have like inserts made for my shoes, which I just never wear them, which I should. I should wear them every time I wear them. I'm supposed to. And then they told me to wear Birkenstocks for like any time that I can. So even when I'm in the house with no shoes on, like I have Birks on. Like right now I have Birkenstocks on. You work in medical records, Jan? I don't know if I could do insurance anyway if I was you guys. That'd be hell. No heels, yeah. So is it just one foot? How do you, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you use like a cane or anything? Because they told me they thought my feet were going to drop. So that's why I'm asking. I'm very curious to know. They had to do like shock therapy, and I had to wear these boots every night that were like space cadet boots. So, and summer's like heels every day. Yeah. No, I'm better. I actually do good in heels. That's not really the problem. It's just, it depends on the heel, I guess. So that's all. So the first video I'm going to show you tonight, Nancy Grace is on, I don't know if she like smoked something before she did this video, but she's like on one today. She's pretty funny in the first video. She's funny in the second one though too. And she does say, we're not having tea, at High Windsor Castle. So, I love that when she says that. And she says drawers about like 50 times. So made me happy. It made me laugh in the store. I was laughing with my headphones in. So I'm pretty sure people are probably looking at me. Nancy's always mad. She always looks mad. No, yeah, tonight she was in like this fun mood. I was just like, what is wrong with Nancy? Maybe it's because she has a group of guys on the panel for the first video. So on our last live, we went over them, like, you know, finding the bodies of Tylee and JJ, how the autopsies that were conducted and how they were found, and we went through the gruesome details. They go through it in the second video again, a little bit of the details. Also, these videos are going to go over. So we really didn't go like touch on a whole lot. We just touched on the beginning of the court case, I think, in our last live. But this live, we'll go over a little bit more. We'll go over the last 2 days or 3 days, I believe, and it'll get us up till today. So Lori's son, her other son, went on the stand today, but I didn't hear anything about that yet. So I need to look into that. Because I thought she was going to like go all the way up. But you know how Nancy is, like, she'll do, when she does like trials, she'll cover for like, she does like half a day and then half a day. So like in the Alec Murdaugh trial, she would do from like morning until like noon until lunch. And then she would do like after lunch until like 6 o'clock. So we're just a little behind. I didn't know that she had a cameo. Well, I didn't know that they had a Nancy Grace cardboard cutout already made up. But I guess they took my word and they said, yeah, we need one. And now I need one. We'll be getting her before we know it. So let me go ahead and start playing this because this is really funny. I was like literally laughing in the store. Actually, I'll tell you what these videos are going to be about too, because they don't really give you a description. So the first one, it says, Vallow-Daybell's former sister-in-law describes to the court how Lori organized a casting for her estranged husband, Charles Vallow. Lori and Charles was possessed by a demon. Or, I'm sorry, Lori said Charles was possessed by a demon. And then it says, Zulema, the widow of Daybell, Vallow-Daybell's brother, which Lori's brother, Alex, also said that while discussing that to do if the castings didn't work, to do what? I'm sorry, I cannot read. Why can I not read tonight? Okay, let's start over. Zulema, I can't ever say her name right, the widow of Lori's brother, Alex, also said that while discussing what to do if the casings didn't work, Lori jokingly told her she could always put some pills in his water. Melanie Gibb testified that Lori asked her to lie to police for her and refused to explain why. So Nancy always has me tongue twisted when she puts her, like, I was trying to read from the podcast version, because she never will call her by her first name. I don't even think she calls her Vallow-Daybell. I think she just calls her Cult Mom. I don't think she has another name. Video all going on. She had me rolling today. Like, I was on a whole new level. I was in the grocery store, like, laughing out loud. And I'm like looking around, like, people have to be hearing me. So look at her face. She's already on one. I think her shirt says fearless. It sure does, y'all. I just have to sit back and look at it at a certain angle. But yeah, it sure does. I love that. Go Nancy. If I was ever on Nancy's podcast, and I've said this before, or video, I'd be scared shitless right now. I would be so, like, she'd be like, come on, Tanya. That was a yes or no question. That's what she'd say.
11. First of all, I want you to take a listen to the prior contestant in the Mrs. Texas pageant.
Here they are, your contestants for Mrs. Texas 2004. Contestant number 4, Lori Ryan. She is Mrs. Hayes County. Her husband's name is Joseph. They've been married for 3.5 years, and they have 2 children.
Lori does have stage presence. She's very poised. She did everything beautifully.
Tell us who you are. What makes you tick?
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
How you doing, Lori?
I'm good.
Lori
How are you?
Ryan from Austin, Texas.
That's right.
Hairstylist in Austin. Hey?
That's right. The best.
How's the hair in Austin?
It's good.
Good.
Austin's a happening place.
Probably thanks to you.
Pretty much.
Talk about your family a little bit.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our two beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Yeah. What do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to play all kinds of sports on our 3 acres.
Okay. Sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
Congratulations.
Thank
Nice to have you with us.
They did, until Joseph Ryan ended up dead. Let's see. Which husband was that, Jackie?
2, I think.
Number 2. Now we've got Charles Vallow is dead. Now we've got Tylee dead. We've got JJ dead. We've got the wife of her new husband, number 5, the prophet, Chad Daybell, dead. That would be Tammy Daybell. I'm missing a body. Who is it? Let's see. I'm sure Nate Eaton can help me. I haven't totally memorized my flow chart, but that's what I need to attach all the dead bodies to cult mom Lori Vallow. You were just hearing Lori Vallow competing in Mrs. Texas, and then again on the Wheel of Fortune with Pat Sajak as she describes her happy life with Joseph Ryan before he ends up dead. Nate Eaton joining me, news director, EastIdahoNews.com. Nate, thank you for being with us. I understand that cult mom Lori Vallow's, quote, inner circle is turning on her. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, for the past few days, 2 of her very, very close friends during all of this took the stand in court, and they told all. They spilled the tea, you could say, about casting quote-unquote zombies out of people, about the text messages that were going back and forth, about how the night that somebody showed up in Tammy Daybell's driveway with a gun and fired it at her, Lori then texted, we now know that was Alex Cox, her brother, by the way. Lori then texted when Tammy did not die that she couldn't do anything right, that he was an idiot and a moron. They're really kind of painting the picture of... Wait.
You got me drinking from the fire hydrant again. And to the rest of the panel, do I have to remind you, especially you, Dr. Michael Bodden, we're not having high tea at Windsor Castle with King Charles. Right. Okay? Jump in when you have a thought. So, Nate Eaton, let me understand
was the one you were looking for. Alex, before. You were looking for the last one.
Yes. Alex Cox, thank you. So, Nate Eaton, let me understand this. Before we even get to, we're still talking about JJ and Tylee, her 2 children. One was basically hermetically sealed in duct tape and plastic. That was JJ. Tylee was dismembered and rendered down to, there's no nice way to put it, a bucket full of human fat and flesh that had been burned, charred. That was what was left of this beautiful teen girl, Tylee. But you're talking about texts, and you got into Tammy Daybell, her death. Alex Cox took a shot at her. She wrongly thought it was somebody doing a prank with a paintball gun. And after he didn't kill her in her driveway, are you saying that cult mom Lori Vallow sent him a series of vengeful texts and messages because he failed?
Well, that very night, Lori was gathered with this close group of friends to do a casting ceremony, which they said they were trying to cast the evil spirit out of Tammy. And at the end of this ceremony, Lori said, that was a success, that was great. And then she got a call, and these friends testified that on that call, she was saying, he's an idiot, he's a moron, he can't do anything right. At the time, the friends did not know that Alex Cox was in Idaho, supposedly taking a shot at Tammy in the driveway, but Lori was furious that whatever was going on there didn't happen. Then 10 days later, Tammy Daybell dies in her sleep. We now know of asphyxiation.
I thought it was determined to be manual strangulation.
No, asphyxiation. They said that the other day in court. Witnesses said she died of asphyxiation. Correct, yes.
So when the brother failed taking a shot at her, she had to die another way. I think I hear Dr. Michael Bodden. First of all, let me introduce to you Dr. Bodden, a longtime colleague and friend.
Yes. Goes back a long time.
Yeah, we really do, Dr. Bodden. And not necessarily because of your fame as being one of the world's most preeminent medical examiners, but because I'm friends with your wife. That's how that happened.
Yes.
Dr. Michael Baden, former chief medical examiner in New York City, never a lack of business there. Co-director, New York State Police Medico-Legal Investigations, author of American Autopsy, and you can find him at drmichaelbaden.com. What were you saying, Doctor?
What I was going to say with Tammy, what was odd was initially when she was found dead back in October 19th, 2019, an autopsy was not done. She was exhumed a year later, on December, about a year later, I think. And as far as I could find, the results were asphyxiation. Then asphyxiation could be a neck compression or just putting a pillow over her nose and mouth. Just means she couldn't breathe.
So how
unless there was
is it,
more information.
though, how do you tell Dr. Michael Baden, and I know I've taken us off on a tangent, but I blame Nate Eaton completely for that. We were talking about Tylee and JJ. That was my plan, but you have to go where the evidence takes you. How can you look at a body, Dr. Baden, and tell whether the person died of manual ligature or asphyxiation, and what are the differences?
Well, asphyxiation means the person can't breathe. Is the mechanism of death. But a neck compression, manual ligature, or holding a pillow over the nose and mouth cause death the same way. So asphyxiation can occur in a number of different ways, especially if she's found in bed and has a strong husband. Or just putting a pillow over the nose and mouth and holding down for a few minutes can cause death and leave no marks. That's the most difficult kind of death to determine at autopsy. You have to have a lot of other information. But the autopsy should also have looked for fractures of the hyoid bone or the thyroid cartilage, which could be helpful in determining if there was manual strangulation, and if there's a ligature mark around the neck, which may or may not be apparent after exhumation.
Phil Waters with us, former homicide detective with the Houston PD, president and CEO of Kindred Spirits Investigations and Security. Phil, thanks a lot for being with us. I'm just really stunned that authorities did not insist on an autopsy at the time, because you've got a husband, as he says, sleeping away, and he wakes up and his wife is, whoops, dead. And it was believed she, quote, died in her sleep of, I guess, a heart attack. But I mean, he was already having a sex affair with cult mom Lori Vallow. That would be enough to raise a big red flag for me.
Well, thanks for having me, Nancy.
Sure.
And I will tell you, it is one of those situations. You've already used the term when I was a homicide detective.
Sorry, I just love her cup so much. I didn't get to see the video portion. I listened to the podcast, so that's why I'm laughing so hard. I love manatees. I need a shirt that says that. I'm gonna take a picture of this cup really quick, guys, because I'm not lying. I'm gonna get someone to make me a shirt. Unless any of you guys know how to make a shirt that says I love manatees with a couple manatees on it, let me know. I'll buy it from you.
I always let the evidence lead me where I need to be, and it's always a journey for the truth. And the problem is, at the time, people, investigators, the authorities, they don't know what they don't know. So if there's nothing at the scene that would indicate that there was some sort of suspicious death surrounding Tammy, I can understand why they did not call for an autopsy. So if the scene,
you do understand when a 49-year-old woman who was in training for a marathon just dies in her sleep without a sound?
I wanted to talk to you guys about that. Yeah, so I didn't know this, until this trial, of course, but that the spouse can just say I'm cool, I don't want an autopsy done. I thought that if you were to die like, and you're in your, like, you're, what, she was 40, I think. You're 40 or in your, you know, the beginning of your 40s, and you train for sports and like triathlons and things like that, or whatever. I know she was training for a run and stuff. So with that being said, wouldn't they want to do an autopsy? Like, I'm surprised that they just like let Chad say, no, I don't want an autopsy done. I thought that, like, I mean, in certain, like, I know that if it's a fatality, like, so if it's a car accident resulting in a fatality, they will straight do an autopsy, no questions asked. Like, you can't even, like, you can't say, like, no, I don't want that, you know. But you would think that they would, especially if he said he didn't want one. Like, that would be a red flag to me. I don't do sea creatures. Me either, but a manatee is like, that's cute on a shirt. Hey, Rich. He's channel shuffling. Is there a lot of people on live tonight, Rich? Let us know. We're watching Nancy.
Well, the guy that wrote the book Running died of a heart attack while he was running at an early age.
That's right, up in Maine.
He died
right.
running.
Yeah.
Hello.
So I
I'll
don't
probably
know that
have a heart attack going up the stairs.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I can understand dying of a heart attack while you're running, but when you're sleeping?
Well, I mean,
Florida,
there's been people that die in there's been people that die in their sleep all the time.
Wait a minute, Phil Waters, I know you are a renowned homicide detective, but I'm not taking your medical advice. Sorry.
Well, no,
Dr.
no.
Dr. Biden, do people usually keel over in their sleep from a heart attack?
But what I'm saying is that at the time, if there's nothing that would indicate that there's something suspicious about this,
I'm literally holding my nose right now, because that's
I'm just telling you, you have to look at these things objectively. When I get there, and I'm just saying that if there wasn't something there that showed it was something other than a medical death, there would have been no reason for an autopsy.
Phil Waters.
Well, in Florida,
wait. Phil Waters, are you there? Is Phil Waters there? Phil,
you're going to have an autopsy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, speak up, because I'm losing you. I can't really hear you that well. Try again.
Look, you're going to have an autopsy in Florida for sure.
Dale Carson, you're not Phil Waters. What do I have to do to get a sound check in this place? Phil, say something.
No. Go. I didn't. Well, I wasn't talking because everybody else was talking.
Okay,
so,
good.
I'm back.
Good. Okay, now stop. Dr. Baden. Wait a minute.
Hi,
Phil Waters, are you married?
I'm here. What I was going to hear here.
Is Phil Waters married? That's my only question.
Yes, ma'am. I've been married for over 40
stop right
years.
there. Stop. That was a yes, no. Because if you die in the middle of the night with no prior history of heart problems, and your wife is texting and sleeping with some other guy, God forbid, and she tells me, oh, he died in his sleep, don't worry, Phil. I'm going to throw her face down on the floor and arrest her with a pair of cuffs and drag her out by her toes, okay? And you can tell her that from me, because I'm not buying it. That said, to Dr. Michael Baden, I didn't know people typically kill over dead in their sleep with a heart attack.
Well, yeah, that's a common way. People who have pre-existing diagnosed severe coronary artery disease can die in their sleep.
How about no pre-existing, like Tammy Daybell?
And it's very unusual to die in your sleep if you don't have pre-existing evidence of heart disease. But in this, just as in some states require the medical examiner to get involved, others, like when I read through about Tammy, Chad had objected to it, did not want an autopsy, and apparently if the next of kin doesn't want an autopsy, unless there's something obvious at the scene, they just signed it out without an autopsy because he was the next of kin.
And so let me, one more time, and I know it's hard to get Dr. Baden to answer yes or no. I hate to even try to cross-examine him. I might as well go back in the courtroom because I'm a JD, not a DDS. I'm not good at pulling teeth, but I declare all of you on this panel as hostile witnesses right now. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. So, Dr. Baden, to reiterate, with no prior history of heart problems, heart murmurs, heart anything, no history, you would agree with me that it's highly unlikely that Tammy Daybell killed over in her sleep with a heart attack?
Yes, I agree with that. Attorney, you got it right
Well,
on.
we're looking at
How long did that take me? 8 minutes?
We're looking at this. We're looking at this as what we know now. We're looking at it backwards. So I'm just saying at the time, and I'm not defending anybody here. I'm just saying at the time, there was nothing to suggest that this was suspicious. And just as Dr. Biden has alluded to, if the request for an autopsy is by virtue of the next of kin, and the next of kin says they don't want one, then that's what they're going to abide by.
And I don't know about you guys, but when the next of kin says, I don't want an autopsy, that's exactly when I'm going to start questioning them separately. That said, speaking of texting and emailing and sneaky sex where nobody can find out you're with the person, let's take a listen to a not so sneaky email. Our cut 237. Take a listen to this. I bet you can figure out who this is from.
Charles at Wright Planning Group, email address to tammy.daybell@gmail.com on June 30th at 2019 at 10:16 a.m. The subject line in the email is your husband and my wife, and the body of the email reading are having an affair. Her name is Lori Vallow. I've got definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know, but the truth needs to be shown. Charles Vallow.
And from your review of the device, were you able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell would have actually read these emails?
I did contact at least Sugar Salem School District and asked if those were read. There's no indication that they were. They said they could have been deleted, read and deleted, or just deleted, but there's no indication.
Okay, Nate Eaton, news director, EastIdahoNews.com. Well, that's your, let's just say, here's a legal term. That's the turd in the punch bowl. All right. There goes Tammy Daybell's happy life. She was living in blissful ignorance about her husband. And believe me, I don't think that Cult Mom Lori Vallow was special. I think there were many other women that he would. This was actually his punchline. I may need a shrink on this, Dr. Dana Anderson. He would say, you've lived a prior life and you and I were married. So basically we've already had sex. So there's nothing wrong with it. Don't try that at a bar, anybody. But Nate Eaton, so here we have Detective Nathan Duncan out of the Kendall Police testifying as to this email. So do we know if Tammy Daybell read that email?
No, there's no indication of that, Nancy. And this was interesting. When the detective took the stand, he went through a series of emails, one after the other, between Charles Vallow, Lori Daybell, Vallow at the time, Tammy Daybell, and Chad Daybell. Basically, Charles Vallow found on his computer these emails that showed signs of an affair. He reached out to all parties involved and said, somebody come clean with this. Somebody tell us what's going on here. He gave Lori a deadline. He said, you have until tomorrow or I'm calling Tammy. I'm contacting Tammy. Lori responded, she won't talk to you. She's my friend. So Charles reached out. He then confronted Chad, who never responded to an email. 10 days later, Charles Vallow is shot dead.
Well, you have to commend Charles Vallow. He didn't take the predictable route of just throwing a firebomb into Chad Daybell's house. He tried to email them, but I'm curious. I'm very curious, Nadine. We have no way to determine whether Tammy Daybell or her husband, Chad Daybell, read the email. So she went to her death not knowing her husband was cheating.
I don't know. According to the detective, he says they don't know if she read the email or not. But what another witness said is that the second Tammy started to suspect there was an affair, suddenly she moved from the light list to the dark list, and a zombie possessed her body. And you know what that means,
you're
Nancy?
scaring me because you actually say this like you believe it's real, like a zombie really did possess Tammy Daybell's body, and everybody that was against Lori Vallow sex affair with Chad Daybell turns into a zombie. Let's see. There's Charles Vallow. He died. JJ, Tylee, Tammy. I know the COD cause of death on Alex Cox, but I find a hard time believing it, that he died of an aneurysm. Wait, is that Bodden speaking?
Yeah. He conveniently died of, at one place they say an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm, another pulmonary embolism. It'd be an interesting autopsy report to look at.
Ooh, you're so smart. Oh, I didn't think of that. I'm kicking myself.
Nancy,
yes.
Nancy, what impressed me most was Tammy and Chad had been married, from what I read, for 30 years. This wasn't an on and off thing. They were married 30 years before she died in her sleep.
Could you guys, once again, now I can blame Bodden for this. You're leading me down the garden path, and I have no desire to put the bus back in the middle of the road. Dr. Dana Anderson and Dale Carson, jump in when you want to. Dr. Bodden, you said.
Well, Nancy,
hold on,
I'd like to say.
You go ahead, because I've got to form a medical question, and it's going to take me a second. Go ahead. Dr. Dana Anderson with me, forensic psychologist, forensic expert at psychologydoctor.com. Go ahead, Dr. Dana.
Well, officially, I'd like to go on record and request that if I ever die, I would like an autopsy, and I'm hoping we can just drop a legal draft about that right now.
Don't worry, I'll handle it. Next.
You can't, because once you die, you're property of the next of kin, and if the next of kin agrees with you, fine. But if not,
I don't know, Bodden. I'll find a way around. You stick to your autopsy table. I'll handle the courtroom. Go ahead, Dr. Dana.
I'd like to
I'm
add
with
that
you,
to my
Dr.
will
Bodden.
or prenup. Well, and second of all, I agree. We're going to all need to see a shrink after all of listening to all this nonsense and just debriefing about all of this. Lori Vallow and her beliefs about these zombies. It's infuriating.
And I'm angry, Dr. Dana, that she could attempt, or maybe even persuade a juror that she has mental problems. But if she's crazy like a fox, because everybody that she believes has gone to the dark side or has become a zombie ends up dead. She's using her religious beliefs to get rid of anything and anybody that stands in the way of her hopping in bed with the prophet Daybell.
Well, remember, when she was castigating her brother for not carrying out the shooting properly, that's all part of the plan. You have a seance, or whatever the hell it's called, and then you determine that you've cast out the evil spirit, and then suddenly that person dies. So it validates the entire process to your friends. Pretty clever, really.
You know what, Dale Carson, you're right. Dale Carson joining me, high-profile lawyer out of Jacksonville. This is the part I really like. Former FBI agent and former cop with Miami-Dade. Never like a business there as well. And author of Arrest Proof Yourself. So let me circle back. Dr. Bodden, I've never explored this, and that was genius, what you just said. For you, I'm sure it's like routine, but it's not. You identified two conflicting COD causes of death for Alex Cox, the so-called avenging angel, for cult mom Lori Vallow, her words, not mine. And they were embolism and aneurysm?
Brain aneurysm that ruptured.
What is the difference between the two?
Well, one is getting blood clots in the legs that then break off and go to the lungs and cause a natural death. The other is a rupture of an aneurysm in the brain that can be treated if got to a hospital, but if not, the person dies of brain hemorrhage.
What's an aneurysm?
Both are usually natural deaths.
What's an aneurysm?
It's a ballooning out of a blood vessel.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Let me catch up with you. Okay, they didn't teach this in law school. Wait a minute. An embolism, you're saying, is a blood clot typically in the legs that can go to the heart or the lungs. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And a brain aneurysm, hey, is it aneurysm or aneurysm?
Aneur, A-N-E-U-R.
I've heard so many people say aneurysm, but it's aneurysm. A brain
Right.
aneurysm is when a blood vessel balloons and ruptures in the brain.
Right.
Two totally different things, because I thought for a minute that they were both kind of like a blood clot, but they're not at all.
Well,
Yeah, totally
well,
different.
if I can say something real quick here, remember too that the autopsy, the tox results on Cox show that he had Narcan in his system. So I don't know if that's a contributing factor or not.
Good point. Is that Phil Waters speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Good point. He had, interesting, would it, Dr. Biden? And why in the world did he have Narcan in his system?
That usually would indicate that the ambulance response, when he was found unconscious, they came and they would give Narcan just in case it's a drug overdose. But the Narcan doesn't cause any harm.
So Nate Eaton, that's another fun thing for you to do in all your spare time. Nate Eaton, everyone joining me from EastIdahoNews.com, has been in the courtroom. He was there before they even brought in cult mom Lori Vallow. Okay, tell me what's the latest before I go for. Oh, hey, I want you to hear one more email. This is a humdinger.
I saw Rich's comment, kind of made me laugh because I just thought of something. Maybe he thought if he would be the prophet of death, like, because you're right. Maybe he thought if he kills, unalives enough people, he'll be that much further in line to be part of that 144,000. That's only allowed to go to. Only 144 of us can go to heaven. Sorry, the rest of us. So, like Nancy said before. We definitely ain't getting in if they're only letting in 144,000. So, anybody want to hang out with us here? Summer. I really did tell Vincent that today. Because he said we were talking about trials, and I said the Kohlberger trial, I swear it's going to go like the way that it's going now. They're going to nip it. They may not let us. No, I don't know. I didn't say no. So I said if they don't let cameras go in. Because just the way that everyone's like putting out like a bunch of fake news and stuff, it's just the trial hasn't started yet. I'm scared that they're going to do something like this, where they're just going to shut it all down and be like, nope, nobody can see anything. So Vincent was like, well, what happens if it's not televised? And I just looked at him and he's like, you're going out there? I said, yeah. Best believe it. We have a little 3-person tent, and I saw online today that there was like a 2-person cot on sale. It's like originally $400. It was on sale for like $50. So Summer, do you want to go? You can go on the bottom cot, top cot, whichever one you want. Cot buddies, sleeping in the tent.
Dinger, take a listen to our cut 238.
The message from Charles to Lori on June 30th, I believe that should be 2019, of 0842. Lori, I know you don't care how I feel, but just imagine this. How could my actions or breaking your heart result in what you've done? You accuse me of infidelity, but it's you who have been having an affair. It just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. How can you live with yourself destroying our life, Mel and Brandon's? Probably Mel and Brandon too. Now add Chad Daybell family, and you've got a home run. The fact you will continue to go to the temple after all you've done shocks me. There really is something wrong with you. I really don't want to do what I have to do, but you have to be exposed for what you really are.
And he didn't quite make it to exposing his wife because he was murdered. And take a listen to 239. It doesn't end there.
July 1st, 2019 at 10:31. Charles to Lori. I'm going to Idaho first to meet with Tammy Daybell. Lori responds to Charles a minute later. She won't see you. She is my friend. She won't listen to you. Go ahead. You are ridiculous. Are you coming to JJ for the 4th or not? Charles responded to Lori July 1st, 2019 at 10:37. Then you tell me why you used my name and fictitious email to send a BS email about a book I am having him ghostwrite for me. It's fraud and a lie. There's no reason for it other than to get him in Arizona and have an excuse for his wife.
Nate Eaton, that you're hearing the detective reading, that's Detective Nathan Duncan, and he's not a dramatic person at all. I find him to be very down to earth. But when he was reading that email from Charles Vallow to Lori Vallow, cult mom, it was very heartbreaking. Him saying, I can't believe you're doing this and tearing apart our family. And here you've been accusing me of an affair, and you were the one having an affair. And now you're going to go to Temple like nothing ever happened. And how long after those emails, Nate Eaton, after he threatened to expose the affair to Tammy Daybell, did he die?
Oh, less than 2 weeks. And I got to tell you, as he read those emails for 45 minutes and text messages, the jurors were fixed on this detective. Many were writing notes. Many were looking directly at Lori Vallow. She's sitting directly across from them in the courtroom. They can look at her the entire time. Lori was taking notes herself, occasionally looking up at the detective, occasionally talking with her attorneys. They were all focused on this. But I have to tell you, the most memorable moment thus far is the second that the prosecutors put up what was left of Tylee on the screen. Pictures of teeth, of half of a skull, of the bucket of flesh. And then we saw JJ wrapped in duct tape. And then we saw Tammy's autopsy photos. And after all of that, they showed the photo of Chad and Lori on the beach holding hands with those wedding rings they bought on Amazon. As they said, this case boils down to three things: money, power, sex.
I've got to ask you, Nate Eaton, what was cult mom Lori Vallow doing? Did she ever look at the jury? Did she keep scribbling notes the whole time?
Lori has been very engaged with her attorney. She's taking notes. She's whispering. At one point, one of her attorneys said, "You need to stop talking to me. I need to focus." She has been
gosh. You know, that's really interesting. Dale Carson, I don't know about you, but I tried every one of my cases solo because I could not have anybody talking to me during a trial. It's like a tennis match. Witness, jury, until the judge breaks in and says something. But I would even have to have my investigator, who I had for 10 years, who I love to this day. We only ever had one argument in 10 years over that idiot O.J. Simpson. No offense, Dr. Michael Bodden. But Dale Carson, of course she's taking notes. Yeah, I want to ask you, Dr. Bodden, how did you guys get O.J. Simpson to write notes? What was he playing, hangman's with himself? But Dale Carson, that's what they do when they can't look the jury in the eyes. They act like they're taking notes. They're just drawing squiggly lines.
Right. That's exactly right. And it's very disconcerting because you've got to watch the witnesses as they testify. You've got to look at their faces. You've got to look at their verbal and tonal responses to questions. And then you have somebody sitting right at your shoulder, grabbing it, wanting to talk to you because they're nervous because the witness is doing a rather excellent job. So it's extremely upsetting and troubling when they do that.
So, Dr. Bodden, I guess you're going to tell me what O.J. Simpson was really drawing on those notepads. And notice I said drawing, not writing.
I'll tell you what one of the lawyers there was drinking. It wasn't soda during the trial.
I have no
one of
doubt.
Your friends.
I managed to get a little bit out of Cochran during the time that I worked with him at Court TV. God rest his soul, because he sure had a way with a jury. But I would not be surprised at all if it would drive anybody to drink.
No, it wasn't Cochran. It was the other heavyweight lawyer who was there for a while.
Bailey?
Yeah, Bailey. Ashley Bailey was taking mints during the trial while he was there, and because he was drinking vodka.
Well, I just assume F. Lee Bailey was having a drink during the trial. But okay, when you have something else to shock me, go ahead and tell me. But I can tell you this much, Nate Eaton, news director, EastIdahoNews.com. I'm a teetotaler, and this is about to drive me to a drink, and I don't even know what I want to drink listening to all this, because behind all this, I keep thinking about I think about JJ, but I think more about Tylee, even though JJ was only 7 years old. I keep thinking about my twins at age 7. But Tylee was dismembered, her bones broken, severed, and then she was burned, and all that was left, she was so disrespected, even in death, all that was left was this half-melted bucket of fat and human tissue. That's all that was left of this beautiful girl with that great big smile she had, because she got in cult mom Lori Vallow's way. And some of this sounds laughable. It's not. When you think about it like that, you know who was a great witness, Eaton? Was this, is it Zulema Pastenes? How do you say Alex Cox's widow's name?
Zulema.
Zulema, last name?
Pastenes.
Zulema Pastenes. Guys, take a listen to our cut 2, 5, 2, 3, and 4.
So you went to Ms. Gibb's house, and did you see the defendant there?
Yes.
Tell us about that first meeting. What happened during that first meeting?
Lori was speaking, and during this meeting, she was giving a testimony that she had had visitations of angels, and that she had visitations of the angel Moroni that was giving her instructions, and that she was a personal witness of Jesus Christ.
When you say she was giving testimony of the visitation from angels, and specifically the angel Moroni, what did that mean to you?
When someone is getting such visitations from a heavenly being, it would mean that this person has a very high spiritual standing, someone who is very righteous, and is just, I guess, above, spiritually above other people.
Did you hear anything else? I thought you said something about a witness to Jesus or Jesus Christ.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So that would mean that you actually have a personal conversation, physical conversation with Jesus Christ.
And what significance did that have to you?
That would be the highest spiritual experience that any human being can have.
Nate Eaton joining us from EastIdahoNews.com. The fact that this woman would use the name of Christ, and to the Mormons, I'm sure that they're furious. She has brought up the angel Moroni as giving her instructions to murder her children and Tammy Daybell. I mean, there's got to be some Mormons on that jury.
Oh, I'm sure there are, Nancy. And
I bet they were spinning on their ears when she brings out Moroni.
And I think anybody that uses the name of Jesus Christ to try to defend this type of activity would have an issue with it. And it's interesting, the witnesses would say that if the plan that Chad and Lori had, the plan that they had saying that these people would die by such and such a date, if it didn't happen, then they would follow up with, well, it wasn't God's will. Instead, we need to do this. The bar was constantly moving and constantly changing until everybody in their way could be eliminated and Chad and Lori could be together.
Dr. Michael Bodden joining me, former chief medical examiner in New York City. Dr. Bodden, how many so-called religious deaths have you seen where people actually use religion, use our Holy Father as their cover, using Christ like this to cover up their murder?
My experience has been largely in New York and New York City in particular, and that doesn't become an issue very often. I can't remember, except for occasionally after somebody has died, instead of reporting it, keeping a memorial around the body at home with all kinds of different applications of liquids to the body of the person, of their loved one, for religious reasons. But I haven't really come across when religion is used as an excuse for
I
murder.
have, Dr. Bodden, sadly. Phil Waters, former homicide detective and now CEO Kindred Spirits Investigations and Security, joining us out of Houston. Phil, again, thank you for being with us. I've seen a lot of parents who end up murdering their children as some sort of bizarre exorcism or some religious fasting or diet. I've seen that a lot. And parents claiming their children are demonic, and then the child ends up dead.
Well,
I don't know that I've seen that type of thing in my career. I worked 23 years in HPD homicide, retired from there, worked over 400 homicides, and worked a lot of child deaths and baby deaths, that kind of thing. There's only a couple that I can think of that didn't really have a religious component to it, but may have had an influence on it. And it's always a question, but this case is Jim Jones proportions in terms of the religious cult foundation for this thing. And just as a person who's conducted hundreds of interviews in watching somebody like a Lori Daybell in a trial, and her making notes and talking to the attorneys and that kind of thing, to me, this is an indication that she is wanting to continue to be in control of her surroundings and her circumstance.
Well, you're so right.
Really
and Nate Eaton, following up on what Phil Waters is saying, former homicide detective, I want you to listen to our cut 247. Chad Daybell, the so-called prophet, had actually elevated cult mom Lori Vallow to goddess status and trying to convince Alex Cox to go kill people. Listen to this.
Powerful goddesses were needed to be protected, and you were selected to help protect your sister. And you helped her in numerous probations as a defender. You have a special bond even from the pre-mortal world. You connected there. And as she grew in power, you were right there beside her.
Dr. Dana Anderson, forensic psychologist, what is wrong with these people? There you have Chad Daybell giving a so-called patriarchal blessing on Alex Cox, Vallow, cult mom's brother, so he could go kill some more people on her behalf, elevating her to goddess status, and somehow making it okay for Alex Cox to commit more murders.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say earlier, you were talking about these religious themes that people use to make excuses for the behaviors. I wanted to say I do see that, and I specifically assess for that, and it's malingering, which is lying for secondary gain, people that are trying to say they have these grandiose religious delusions. That's actually something as a forensic psychologist I test for, and a test of malingering psychosis, and I catch people when they lie. And so in this case, obviously, Lori Vallow was found to be incompetent at some point. So there was a point in time where these delusions, which she was reporting, were thought to be maybe a mental illness.
Well, you know what? To that, go ahead, Dr. Dana.
She's highly manipulative and deception.
Well, if you think she's crazy or she's having a delusion, Dr. Dana Anderson, I want everybody to hear our cut 255. Yeah, she's not crazy. Listen.
Did she ever talk about other plans, that if the casting didn't work, did she talk about other ways to deal with Charles?
When we were at my house in March of 2019, and we had done the casting, she was laughing, and she said that, well, if it doesn't work, I can always put some pills in his water or something. And then she laughed it off.
And then when that didn't work, Charles Vallow was shot dead. Nate Eaton, what's happening today in court?
We're going to have more witnesses on this case. The prosecution has a list of 90 possible witnesses, and the defense has publicly said that they have very few, if any, witnesses when it's their turn. So Zulema Pastenes will continue to testify about her workings with Lori. We'll hear from detectives. Lori's oldest son, could possibly take the stand. And this trial is expected to last 3 to 4 more weeks.
I can't wait. Nancy Grace signing off. Goodbye, friend.
I kicked myself out of the studio. Would you believe that? Can you believe that? I went backwards on the wrong screen. It's like, whoopsie. Lori Vallow is an evil, 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 evil woman. Tell you that. Let me get this back up on the screen.
And the moment they met,
I was watching this earlier. Don't play. Okay. Okay, it's not playing. I was going to tell you guys something. No, I can't remember. Oh yeah, I was just going to say, if you didn't see it, Mystic, I did email. Let me write her name down. Crime with K, so I can remember to look it up. Look her up on Facebook, because I'm not going to wait around on her any longer. I've wrote her 3 times and asked her if she's okay. So I want to make sure she's okay. She's our girl. Let's see how close we are. Because we getting close to that Nancy cardboard cutout. Let's see. I'm going to try to do the math here. We need... So we're at 7605. We need 2395. Not too much more. I can't wait to see her back here. She's going to be hanging out. She's going to be looking pretty. I wish I could get her one with a coffee cup. But I think the one with the blue blazer jacket is super cute. Yeah, Crime with Cat, I know. I asked her like 3 times if she was okay. I said, just let me know. So I said, just let me know. But we are going to move on to a second Nancy Grace video. And it's going to get us like caught up until today, like court proceedings. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that way I don't have to pause through the Nancy Grace to ask you guys to hit the like button, because it does send it out to the algorithm. It does something special for it, Jurors, I know she should. I don't think you were in here the other day, but I was telling everyone I'm gonna when I get her, I'm gonna just have her come up on live one night and scare you guys. I'll just take the mouse, because I have a cordless mouse. I'll just take it somewhere with me, and then just hit the live button so you can just see Nancy. Eddie knows she won't. I'm the only one that doesn't appreciate the pot talk in a true crime stream. And then everyone's laughing. You can customize then. Oh, you did? Oh, you found... Oh, okay, Summer. I want to customize her. I want her to have that cup. I want her to have a coffee cup or something. I don't know. Yeah, so let's see here. I'm going to tell you guys about the second video. I didn't actually get through the whole second video. Like you guys saw, I got to 33, 38. So out of 42 minutes, so I was pretty much there. But I was listening to this, and I would have actually watched them both before I got on here, if it'll let me rewind it. But Like I said, I had a little weird grocery experience today. So let me rewind this for you guys. I have to unpause it really quick.
This is something she's been doing.
That case. And this is a great question for every.
Okay. And then I'll read the podcast thing. Let me see what it says this one's about for S. Does everybody have some water, some snacks, some chocolate milk, some cookies? Because we're going to need it. You may need to hydrate. So this one, it's going to talk about Chad Daybell's, one of his books. It's going to be actually the one that they're talking about, and in particularly is going to be the one that Chad Daybell wrote for Lori. So it should be a good episode of Nancy. And I'll be in the chat too. If anybody has any questions over this case or any of the other cases that we're covering, just let me know. Also, if you, I don't know if you guys saw this. I forget who came in the chat and told us. But the other day we did before I get back to this, but we did an Idaho 4 live, and we were talking about, someone came in the chat. I forget which one of you guys it was. And that you guys said, Brian Kohlberger is identifying as a female and he wants to go to a female's prison, and you saw it on another channel and we were laughing about it. And you're like, I know it's not real. And we looked it up and we pulled it up and we laughed about it. And then that was the end of it. There are people that are running with this like it is liquid gold, guys. I could not believe it. I was like, are you really for real? You guys really think this is real? This is somebody's not even a real website. I mean, it's a real website, obviously, because you can get on it, but it's a .net, you know what I mean? It's one of those, it's a blog or something. I don't know. So let's see here. I'll go ahead and start playing this.
Does it never end with cult mom Lori Vallow? Well, obviously, the answer to that is no. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thanks for being with us here at Fox Nation and Sirius XM 111. Cult mom Lori Vallow on trial for multiple murders, including those of her own children, JJ and Tylee. Now, according to her, she had nothing to do with it, and she has plenty of people that she thinks are going to take the fall. I disagree. So where did the whole thing start? Well, it started with sex. That's where it started. But I would suggest, for the jury's purposes, it started with an email. Take a listen to this.
Charles at Right Planning Group, email address to tammy.daybell@gmail.com on June 30th at 2019 at 10:16 a.m. The subject line in the email is, "Your husband and my wife," and the body of the email reading, "are having an affair. Her name is Lori Vallow. I've got definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know, but the truth needs to be shown. Charles Vallow."
And from your review of the device, were you able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell would have actually read these emails?
I did contact at least Sugar Salem School District and asked if those were read. There's no indication that they were. They said they could have been deleted, read and deleted, or just deleted, but there's no indication.
Okay, wait a minute. So they were deleted. You know what? Just ask yourself, if you got an email who on the subject line, which is basically all I ever read anyway, sorry, Jackie, "Your husband and my wife," who in their right mind wouldn't read that? Of course she read it. With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now. But, first, let me go to Tara Malek out of that jurisdiction, Idaho. She's a high-profile lawyer and co-owner Smith. And is it Malik or Malek?
It's Malik. Yeah.
Malik. Now, in addition to having her own firm, she's a former state and federal prosecutor. That's not easy. Tara, please, let's just get real for a moment. Who is going to pretend that Tammy Daybell did not read that? Your husband and my wife, that's the headline?
Yeah, I think it's, completely unreasonable to think that she wouldn't have at least opened that email and read it. I think most of us, if we're seeing a headline or a subject line like that in an email, of course we're going to jump in and figure out what's going on. Even if she just deleted it later, it certainly doesn't mean that she didn't at least take a look. I'm sure her interest was piqued. Also
joining me, high-profile psychologist joining us out of Manhattan is Karen Stark. You can find her at KarenStark.com. That's Karen with a C. Karen, really? I mean, even if it just said your husband at the top of an email, I would read it, because who would say your husband? If somebody wrote about David, I might pause, because it's obviously somebody that knows me that's sending me something. Maybe it's about his birthday, or they ran into him at McDonald's. But your husband and my wife? No, I would read that pronto. Who were they kidding?
Of course, anybody
Ridiculous.
would read it, Nancy. I mean, you want to know. Somebody has some information for you. But it's pretty amazing how much people will ignore something like that if they don't want to disrupt their marriage.
Ooh,
and I know it's
wait a
really
minute.
hard to believe. But
Wait
they
a
will.
minute. I don't like it. Hey, keep holding that sign up just a second, because you can just exercise your arm, Jackie. It won't kill you. Wait a minute. I don't like what you said, but as far as analyzing this case, I'm interested in what.
I'm sorry. That made me laugh so hard. Did anyone else just hear her? She said you can hold that sign up, get your exercise in. Oh, man, Nancy. She wild. She's wild. I'm going to rewind it just because I had to turn the camera on. I was laughing so hard. I have cursed in church. Yes, I have, Jesus. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just bad. I'm bad. But me and the Jesus and me and God, we got a serious relationship going on. We got at this point, we got a deal going, You just leave me alone when I'm in church, and we'll be cool when I get up there. As long as I'm in there, just leave me be. My dad said he wasn't going to go back to church one time until they let him bring in beer. My dad was awful. He was so awful. You just had to know him, and he didn't go back either. He was just like, I'm done. You got a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna be dying again over here laughing. At least I have tissues this time. Speaking of where's Oompa? Where is Oompa when you need him?
What you said, because you know how.
A little bit.
Wife? No, I would read that pronto. Who were they kidding?
Of course, anybody
Ridiculous.
would read it, Nancy. I mean, you want to know. Somebody has some information for you. But it's pretty amazing how much people will ignore something like that if they don't want to disrupt their marriage.
Ooh,
and I know it's
wait a
really
minute.
hard to believe. But
Wait
they
a
will.
minute. I don't like it. Hey, keep holding that sign up just a second, because you can just exercise your arm, Jackie. It won't kill you. Wait a minute. I don't like what you said, but as far as analyzing this case, I'm interested in what you said, because you know how women, I'm going to go to you in just a sec, Robin Dreek, because I am sure you have a lot to say on this. A lot of people, they don't want to know the spouse is cheating. I mean, they're all the signs. Do I even have to say lipstick on your collar? Told the tale on you, blah, 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 blah. A lot of women
We're dating
and men.
ourselves, Nancy.
Yes, right. Hey, that was my grandmother's song. So what I'm saying is, you may put on blinders and you just don't see because you don't want to see, or you trust and love the person so much that you don't see it. But I mean, an email? Are you suggesting in that same line of reasoning that Tammy Daybell may have just said, I'm not reading that, and deleted it?
Well, even if she read it, what I'm suggesting is that denial is very strong, and I feel quite positive that she did not want to deal with that news, that it was not something that she wanted to pay attention to because it would disrupt her life.
Joining me right now, Nate Eaton, news director, EastIdahoNews.com, has been in the courtroom from the very beginning. Listen to this theory. It's a good one from Jackie right there. Or should I just let her keep holding the sign up to work her arm out? No, okay. Or Chad deleted because Lori, first of all, we do not refer to accused killers by their first name, as you know. We had that out over O.J. Simpson. Chad, what about this, Nate? Chad Daybell, the prophet, deleted that email sent to his wife after Lori Vallow told him that her husband was sending the email. Could that have happened?
It's quite possible. Yeah, it's quite possible because the detective said that Chad and Lori were crafting emails pretending to be Charles Vallow. They sent an email pretending to be Charles to Chad saying, please come immediately and help me write this book.
Well, you're going too fast. You're making my head hurt. Okay. Slow down, Nate Eaton. What?
So there was an email that Chad Daybell received allegedly from Charles Vallow saying, I would love to fly you to our house. You can stay with us. I want to write a book with you. I want to write my biography. This needs to happen immediately. Please respond immediately.
I don't see Charles Vallow as the kind of guy that wanted to write his biography. And I'm just basing that on everything I've gleaned from his friends and relatives. He just seemed like a hardworking guy that loved his children and was wondering what happened to his wife.
And he found the email and confronted.
I mean, like, just let me get my head around that, Nate Eaton. What do you know how I would fall out if David Lynch came home one day and said, I'm going to write my biography? I mean, what? Write your biography? Just stop right there. Ladies, if your husband came home and said he was going to write his biography, okay, I just had to digest that, Nate Eaton. Okay, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, it's
that's a lie right there. Oh, I wish I could argue this to the jury. Go ahead.
Charles found it. Charles found that email, confronted Lori over text message, which they read in court, gave her a deadline, said, you need to let me know by such and such a time what is happening here. And that's when he then reached out to Tammy with the email you just played, saying they're having the affair. But Chad was involved with all of these emails. He very well could have gone in and deleted them, although that email did go to two email addresses, her work email and her personal email. Of course, we don't know if Chad had access to the work email, and the detectives say they don't know if she actually ever read it.
Okay, Robin Dreek is joining me, behavior expert, former FBI special agent, chief of FBI counterintelligence behavioral analysis program. That's certainly a mouthful. Author of Sizing People Up, a veteran FBI agent's manual for behavior prediction. I'm getting more and more and more impressed with every word I read. You can find Robin at peopleformula.com. Robin, is there any way in HELL Tammy did not read this email titled, Your Husband, My Wife?
I think 100% she read it because it's a lever of influence using curiosity. And that's what listeners do, is they put something down there that's going to entice someone to read it. What I found also really interesting is the theme of writing a book and a memoir, because Lori's dad tried that same kind of thing years ago. You know, human behavior starts when we're young, and it generally has a thread through our lives. And with all the death around Lori, and then that theme that's kind of an odd parental thing when she was younger with what her dad was doing, it was interesting that they would use that as a lever of maybe making someone feel safe.
Now, Jackie's furiously waving. You know, you need to work out the other arm, Jackie. That they had been married 30 years and they shared everything. But you know what? That doesn't necessarily mean they read each other's emails. Robin Dreek joining me, behavior expert. Karen, you can have a cup of tea right now because you've heard this story before. I don't want to read my husband's emails because one time I decided I was going to investigate his every activity. I tried to read his emails. They were awful. He's a, quote, business person. They were the most boring. I tried to go through about 90. I got through about 10. My eyes were bleeding. I nearly died of boredom. That was it. Never again. So the whole reading each other's emails and following them and reading their texts, if you're at that point, you might as well get a divorce, because all the trust is gone. If you can't let the person out of your sight, I mean, that's just too much trouble. Would you agree with that, Robin Dreek, as he's sitting there reading his wife's emails? Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. You know, when trust is lost, what happens is just like you described, Nancy, is that there's a feeling of being unsafe, and that there's aspects of their lives that they're trying to hide. And the only way to try to regain trust is have full transparency in that aspect of their life that they felt they lost that trust in. And so that's what inspires someone to do those types of things. And when you, like you're describing, when you read your spouse's emails and they bore you to living tears, that's when you know, well, then we have full transparency and there's nothing going on here. But the fact that someone
and oh, by the way, he caught me reading them too. He caught me reading them. So he was very unconcerned that I was snooping through his emails, and I caught him being good again. I can't ever catch him doing anything wrong. Can we get back off me reading David's emails that one time to this case? And this is a great question for everybody on this panel, including you, Dr. Jan Gorniak, renowned medical examiner, joining us out of Vegas. Never a lack of business in Vegas. Everybody, I want you to hear a real brain twister for a lot of prosecutors, but I don't think it's going to bother this prosecutor one bit. I want you to hear defense attorney John Thomas cross-examining Detective Ray Hermosillo, because if Lori Vallow, cult mom Lori Vallow, is absolutely in Hawaii, how is the prosecutor going to prove she murdered Tammy Daybell? Listen.
With regards to the death of Tammy Daybell, Tammy Daybell died on October the 19th, 2019, as far as you know, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know where Lori Daybell was on October the 19th? Or I'm sorry, at that time she was Lori Vallow. Do you know where Lori Vallow was on October the 19th, 2019?
I do.
Where was she?
Hawaii.
Okay. So she wasn't anywhere near Tammy Daybell when Tammy Daybell died?
That's correct.
Okay, defense attorney John Thomas, 2 words for you: wishful thinking. To Tara Malik, correct? Good, okay.
That's correct.
Tara Malik, joining us out of Idaho, this jurisdiction. These prosecutors were prepared for that. And that's how you win a case. You anticipate what the other side is going to do, and then you shoot it down before it happens, because she is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and a couple of first-degree murders. How do you sort out what you just heard, Tara? Because she absolutely, cult mom Lori Vallow, was nowhere near Tammy Daybell at the time she was murdered.
Well, I think the defense attorney is trying to do what defense attorneys do, which is poke holes where they can. Problem here is that Lori is accused of conspiracy to commit the murders of Tammy in this case. And so it doesn't matter if she was over in Hawaii. What matters is what she did and whether she put anything in motion to be a part of this plan to murder Tammy Daybell.
Nate Eaton joining us in the courtroom from the get-go from EastIdahoNews.com. What about that, Nate Eaton?
Excuse me. Well, I know that, Lori's attorneys weeks ago filed an alibi.
Oh, yeah, that she was 2 doors down when her son was kidnapped and murdered.
Yeah, when
in the apartment
she was
complex.
In her apartment.
Oh, sorry, I was in 1C while he was being murdered in 1D. Yeah, I heard that.
And also when Tammy died, that she was in Hawaii. So the prosecution knew that this was coming, but how do you deny these text messages and these emails back and forth, and witnesses who have taken the stand? One witness took the stand the other day saying that the day Tammy died, they showed a text message saying, oh my gosh, did you hear that Tammy died? And Lori pretended that she didn't know. And then 4 hours later, another friend texted and said, did you hear that Tammy died? And again, she pretended she didn't know, whereas the first friend had already told her hours earlier. So they're exposing all of this, and her former friends are taking the stand saying, this is the chain of events that happened. And when you have all of this evidence stored in the cloud, I don't know how you can dispute that.
Robin Dreeke joining us, behavior expert, former FBI special agent, and author of Sizing People Up. Robin, is it true? I was thinking about how people cover their tracks and how these two, cult mom Lori Vallow and the prophet Chad Daybell, did not cover their tracks. Is it true that two people can be on a VPN, virtual privacy, and they can text each other and call each other if they have a certain app, and it will not show up on their record?
Boy, you're hitting a tech side for me, and I guess they could probably do that just because if you're trying to hide something from a lot of people, there's always ways to do it. Hell, our kids tend to have a really good job of being able to do this, and so adults probably should be able to take a lesson from them. The thing that are really striking me about this is that, Lori Vallow, she is definitely a skilled conspiracist and occultist at this stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that she's able to, conspire with her now husband to cover her tracks like this, because she's been doing this for years. I mean, look at all the debt that surrounds her. So being able to place blame other places and have covert communications, this just wasn't a one-off. This is something she's been doing a very long time.
Robin Dreeke, I'm a little surprised at you, at your choice of words, all the death around her. You mean all the people she murdered?
Well, at least that she's been involved in, because I think that, so the
involved
defense is trying
in.
to poke holes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's call it like it is, man. She's not involved in it. She's accused of murdering and conspiring to murder multiple people. And I haven't even gotten to Charles Vallow and her other husband, Joseph Ryan. I mean, there's so many. And her brother, Alex Cox. But that said, I will argue with Robin Dreeke about that later. Speaking of cult mom Lori Vallow being in Hawaii, take a listen to our cut 164.
You will hear that the defendant was in Hawaii at the time Tammy died. And you will also hear that less than 3 weeks later, 17 days to be exact, the defendant and Chad Daybell were back in Hawaii. They were getting married on a sunny beach in Hawaii, dancing and celebrating their life together, while Tylee and JJ were cold in the ground in shallow graves, and while Tammy had just barely been laid to rest in the Springville, Utah cemetery, her hometown.
Nate Eaton, please tell me that the state is using those photos of cult mom Lori Vallow and the prophet Chad Daybell dancing on the beach. It looks like they're doing the traditional Hawaiian hula dance.
You're absolutely right. But not only that, they took it a step further when they ended their closing statement by showing a picture of JJ's hands wrapped in duct tape, and then what remains of Tylee's bones and flesh, and then Charles Vallow's hands, and then they cut to the pictures of a hand of Chad and Lori holding them on the beach. And also Tammy's hand. She was a computer whiz. She loved to do family history on her computer. They showed her autopsy photo. So they painted the picture of how these people will never use their hands again because of the hands of these other two who were on the beach getting married.
Tara Malik joining us, high-profile lawyer out of Idaho, where this case is taking place. Tara, that takes a lot of planning. Have you ever been in a trial, because I sure have, where one side, not me, because I practiced into the night to make sure it didn't happen, and everything fails? The slides don't work, the recording is out of batteries, the this, the that, everything goes wrong. There's a reason for that. It's lack of preparation. To pull off what you just heard Nate Eaton describe, you see the hands of cult mom and the prophet together, then you see the children's hands, then you see Tammy Daybell's hands, and the stark dichotomy of that compared to each other. That takes a lot of effort to pull that off seamlessly in court.
It really does, and it's very striking. I mean, that is an image and a theme that is going to stick with this jury throughout the trial, and that's what you want to do as a lawyer. You want to have that impact straight away. Certainly, the facts of this case are outrageous and shocking, to say the least, but there still needs to be a theme, and to really bring it home and to hold these folks accountable and say there's a real impact here. We're not talking about, you know, people playing cult and making up stories about demons. We're talking about an actual impact on human lives.
To Dr. Jan Gorniak, medical examiner, joining us out of Vegas, board-certified forensic pathologist. Dr. Gorniak, it's a real honor to have you joining us. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Gorniak, you have studied what was done to the two children. And before I even get to Tammy Daybell's asphyxiation death, can I ask you this theme that Nate Eaton described of showing the children's and the victim's hands? What would their hands have looked like post-mortem? And I'm talking about the two children first.
Wow, that gave me chills when I just heard that. So yes, especially them being buried. The soil would be wet, but they were there for a while, so they would be skeletonized. So you probably just see bones. You might see some flesh or skin left over, but they would just be, you would know, it'd be obvious that these were hands of dead children.
And of course, little Tylee had been dismembered and burned. All that was left of her was literally a melting bucket of flesh, like rendering. You know what rendering is, Jack? That's when you're like at a slaughterhouse and you completely tear apart the animal's body. I hate to even talk about it because I know actually I'm talking about a little girl. And the slaughterhouse uses every part of the animal. Tylee was basically rendered. Dr. Gorniak, you've really seen it all. There must be an entirely different approach in an autopsy room when you are autopsying a child. When children are the victims, Dr. Gorniak, what is the tone in the autopsy room?
Well, we treat all bodies and all decedents respectfully. But when children are involved, it is really difficult, especially when you know it's not a natural death. So when I say it's shocking that it still surprises me what people can do to other people. But when it's a child, and as a mother and as a grandmother, it's heartbreaking. So in the autopsy room, like we do our job and we do it the best that we can at all times. But when we see children that are, lack of a better word, mutilated, or and we know it's a homicide, it's sad. It's sad.
And to be a medical examiner, you got to be tough. And it really came home to me even after I've cross-examined and direct-examined so many medical examiners on the stand during the Alex Murdaugh trial. She was a tiny little lady, the chief medical examiner that performed the autopsies on the two bodies of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, and she was under intense attack on cross-examination. Yeah. And that little lady, as she has been called, was just crackling with intelligence, and she bit back at every cross-examination question. I was so proud of her, and I don't even know her, for her strength and her resolute demeanor in the courtroom while under attack. It's not easy. One thing I've learned, and I can't wait to hear Nate Eaton describe this, is, well, I never really wanted to go into the mind of the so-called prophet Chad Daybell, but I've had to. I've had to look at his 25 plus books about doomsday, about the end of the world, which he kept predicting and predicting and predicting, and then it would pass and didn't happen. But I want you to hear our cut 293, Detective Nathan Duncan describing another message from Daybell to Cult Mom. Listen.
From Chad to Lori, dated 7/26/2019 at 8:13 p.m.
And could you read it into the record?
Tonight I figured out who I feel like. I'm a grown-up version of Harry Potter who has to live with the Dudleys in his little space under the stairs. Every few weeks I get to escape and have amazing adventures with my goddess, lover, but then I have to return to my place under the stairs, feeling trapped. But I sense permanent freedom is coming.
I have so many emotions right now. I don't even know how to respond to that. But I can tell you this. If my husband, David Lynch, described our life with our children and my mother and our cat, dog, and 2 guinea pigs as living under the stairs with the Dudleys, has anybody on this panel seen or read Harry Potter? His life was excruciating, excruciating, living with his aunt and her family. They mistreated him. He was a nothing. He was miserable. And he describes sex with his, quote, goddess lover as Harry Potter's escape. You know what? I would send him to Lori Vallow, COD, cash on delivery. He's yours, because I don't want him anymore. To hell with him. I'll find a man that is happy to be with me. I mean, that would have broken Tammy Daybell's heart. An adult Harry Potter, Nate Eaton, really? Did the jury hear that? I bet those women were disgusted.
But Nate,
they heard it.
What, Nate?
Oh, yeah, they heard it. They heard it. They also, what's going to be admitted to evidence, we assume, is this text message novel that Chad wrote to Lori. He sent it via text.
Okay, wait. See, you're doing it again. You're just bombarding me. I'm drinking out of the fire hydrant. What? Another novel by Chad Daybell? Does he work for a living or just write these novels?
Well, he says he was an author, but he changed their names to James and Elena. And it's this...
Well, I wonder who that could be.
Steamy love affair, talking about them being together. And
Okay, this don't really have nothing to do with nothing, but somebody tell me how much a large McDonald's coffee is in the chat. Because our girl Nancy, she said that she had like a little coffee. It was not that small. It was probably like a grande from Starbucks. And she was like, I can't believe I spent $3 or $5. That was $5 on this coffee. But she'd be drinking, that's like a gallon of coffee from McDonald's. How much is a gallon of coffee from McDonald's? Does anyone know? Nobody drinks coffee from McDonald's? Oh, come on. One of y'all. I know one of y'all be drinking some. Oh, it's only $1, Michelle? Oh, oh, never mind. Never. Touche, Nancy. Touche, then. That's probably why she gets her. Because I could tell it looks like a McDonald's cup anyway to me. It looks like she just marked out the writing. Okay, so it'd be like, also it's a little cheaper. And she gets that much more coffee. Oh, she's smart. Oh, that was I was going to say, wait a minute, but never mind. That was the video before she had the manatee cup. I was like, dang, double-fisted, Nancy. Thanks, guys. I just needed to know that. That would have bothered me. And I don't drink coffee, so that's why I asked.
Kind of erotic, you could say.
Okay, wait. I've got to let a wave of repulsion wash over me. Chad Daybell writes, I guess, a mini novel, a novella, about who? What are their fake names?
He changes their names to James and Elena.
James and Elena. And it describes their sex affair?
Yes, it describes them being together, and he calls it the romance novel. And he sent this novel to her on a text message. So it's a long, long text message.
Like, that's not going to be discoverable.
Yeah, it's part of the police reports and will likely be read in, but this was multiple
Oh, I can't wait. Now, wait a minute. When you said it's kind of erotic, I think maybe you, Nate Eaton, and I have two different ideas about eroticism. The image of Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow having sex together, I do not find erotic at all. Is that what is described?
Yes. You could say it was PG-13. I mean, it's not quite, triple X, but I've got it, Nancy. I'll send it to you if you want to read it. I'm sure you'll love to read it.
After I've complained about it, of course I'm going to read it in its entirety. But wait a minute. Karen Stark, please help me. Dreek, I may need you in on this too. Karen Stark and Robin Dreek joining us. Karen, psychologist, Robin Dreek, FBI behavioral expert. Okay, Karen, do some people get a sexual kick out of writing about their sex lives or about their anticipated sex lives?
Oh, without a doubt, Nancy. I mean, just because it just makes them remember being together, and also it sets the stage for anything that will happen in the future. But what I find even more interesting when we were talking about him being Harry Potter is that he has these suspicions that he will have some freedom soon, that something will happen. And he's predicting that, in a way, that Charles, Tammy, whoever is not dead yet, will be dead.
Okay, Robin Drake, please help me out. You've had to analyze behavior for the FBI. I mean, number one, these two left a trail a mile wide. Like, you don't think on day one, I'm going to try to grab all their texts, all their emails, all their phone calls, anything I can get my mitts on to find out what really happened? I've got at least 3 dead bodies. Tammy Daybell, little JJ, 7, and Tylee, a teen girl. Oh, yeah, I'm going to read every shred of evidence I can get my hands on. What about this?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, well, they're both high-level wound collectors that are seeking retribution for everyone around them. And since they both had the sense of control because of the cult they formed, they thought they had complete control over everyone and everything in their purview. So it makes them feel very empowered to do these things.
Okay, now, let me ask you, Nate Eaton, hold on. They changed your names in the novella to James and Elena. What about Raphael and Lily? Of course, you sent it to me and I'm already reading it. The thing that I said I would never read. I'm looking at it right now. What about Raphael and Lily? Lili.
Yeah, they constantly have these different names for each other. They were changing their names, going by different aliases. They had code words among the group of when it was safe to talk and when it wasn't, if they thought the police were listening. So the bar was constantly moving, it appears, with this group. If things weren't going right, if the foretold prophecies didn't come to pass, then the bar would move further out and say, well, that wasn't God's plan.
I'm sorry, Nate, but it's your fault I can't pay attention to anything you're saying because I'm reading this novella. Wait a minute. Tara Malik, high-profile lawyer joining us out of Idaho. I hope you're sitting down. Okay, wait. And I quote, he could only giggle when people asked if she was his wife because, yes, in fact, she was. She just didn't know it yet. Wow. That sounds just like Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. James is definitely having amorous feelings toward Elena as they sold books together. Who could that be? He had not felt this happy in his entire life. He was quite sure this was the woman the voice had told him about. James was ecstatic because he had already fallen deeply in love with her. Or better said, he remembered how much he had already loved her. I forgot to tell you, Tara, that was in a previous life. Now wait, her eyes had mesmerized him from the moment they met. But once the book sales slowed down, she stood near him behind the table. They looked deeply into each other's eyes, and for the first time, he knew he was in the presence of a goddess. Tara, please help me.
I mean, I think we all need help after that novella that he just wrote. I mean, if I'm the prosecutor and I'm reading through these text messages, I can only imagine, them just jaws agape, and building that case and the themes of their case immediately after reading through these messages. It's like, he's laying the path for his own conviction here. Now, it's going to be tricky because we also want to make sure that we're not using him as a scapegoat and Lori, gets away scot-free here. But certainly indicates how disturbing and disturbed these individuals were. And as far as motive and intent, this only adds to the prosecution's case.
Looking through, I agree with everything you just said, Tara, Malik. I'm just thinking through this. This is like every other couple that cheats on their spouses, and then they both end up dead. Charles Vallow is dead, and Tammy Daybell is dead. And they both had a hand in it. So while we're laughing, and as soon as you read this, the erotic tension continued throughout the afternoon. Okay, this is your fault, Nate Eaton. But they are using the cloak of religion to shroud them and their fantastical beliefs, to shroud them from the truth. And the truth is they are cold-blooded serial killers. Now, I want you to take a listen to our Cut 273. Wait a minute. This is the prosecuting attorney, Lindsay Blake, questioning friend Melanie Gibb. I love friends that record your phone calls. And actually, I'm not kidding around about that, because if Melanie Gibb had not recorded these calls, the state would have a huge gaping hole in their case. So thank heaven that she did record these calls. Now you're hearing this highly airbrushed version of their cheating, but here's the reality of it. Listen.
Did Lori ever tell you directly that she and Chad would meet at hotels or motels?
Yes.
And did they actually meet did she tell you that they met at hotels?
Yes.
Did she tell you that they would meet at motels?
I don't remember the wording exactly.
One of the two?
Yeah, right.
Did Lori ever indicate to you whether or not she and Chad were engaged in an affair?
She would just share that they were intimate.
Was this while Charles was still alive?
Yes.
Was this while Tammy was still alive?
Yes.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. So it's not some steamy romance.
Did Nancy Grace did she just quote Chingy? Because isn't that the guy who sings that song, or is there another old song that I don't know about? Isn't that the song? Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. Am I thinking that? Am I thinking the right song? I'm going back. I gotta listen to that again. I didn't hear this earlier. Jeez. Nancy, if you didn't like Nancy before, then you should like Nancy now, because Nancy's awesome. Okay, I'm going backwards. And if it's another song, well, it's not in our ears. It's not. So. Oh wait. Okay.
Actually, I'm not kidding around about that, because if Melanie Gibb had not recorded these calls, the state would have a huge gaping hole in their case. So thank heaven that she did record these calls. Now you're hearing this highly airbrushed version of their cheating, but here's the reality of it. Listen.
Did Lori ever tell you directly that she and Chad would meet at hotels or motels?
Yes.
And did they actually meet did she tell you that they met at hotels?
Yes.
Did she tell you that they would meet at motels?
I don't remember the wording exactly.
One of the two?
Yeah, right.
Did Lori ever indicate to you whether or not she and Chad were engaged in an affair?
She would just share that they were intimate.
Was this while Charles was still alive?
Yes.
Was this while Tammy was still alive?
Yes.
hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. So it's not some steamy romance novel. They're just shacking up and getting it on at the local motel. There's no way that somebody didn't tell Tammy Daybell about it. Now, you've heard his airbrushed version of the romance between James and Elena, aka Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. But what about Charles Vallow? He's shot dead, with Cult Mom standing right there doing nothing, and Tammy Daybell, which brings us back to what's happening in court. Take a listen to Melanie Gibb describing Tammy Daybell's death.
My son Garth was right there with me the whole time. My kids were at the house within 20 minutes of her passing. There were 2 coroners. They checked her out right there on the bed. All these conspiracy theories just make me sick to my stomach. Just absolutely sick. I know it's been told for years that Tammy would pass away at a young age. And I had no idea that Lori would even be a part of my life. I just knew that my life had 2 segments. And that I know Tammy's on a special mission and she's with my kids. She's visited them. There's so much, Melanie, that you just have to have faith, and this is not some sort of master plan. There's no way Lori and I should have ever come up with this.
I love Melanie Gibb. She recorded this, and as she was on the witness stand, this recording came into court. You hear the prophet, Chad Daybell, describing how sick the conspiracy theories made him. You know, he tells people she died peacefully in her sleep. Nate Eaton, what was her cause of death?
Asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation. She no more died of a heart attack in her sleep than I did last night. Take a listen now to our cut 277.
Did she tell you anything about what she knew regarding Tammy's passing?
So I asked her what happened to Tammy, and she says that she had a dark entity in her, and they had to do what they could to get that spirit out of her.
And when she said they did what they had to do, did you know who she was referring to?
Her and Chad.
Do you recall if she indicated anything regarding Tammy's knowledge of an affair or suspicion of an affair?
She said she was starting to get suspicious.
And by she was starting to get suspicious, was that Tammy?
Correct.
And quite coincidentally, Tammy Daybell became a dark spirit about the same time she found out about her husband's sex affair with Cult Mom. Take a listen.
Do you recall if Lori indicated how long Tammy had been suspicious of that before she passed away?
I would say no longer than 2 weeks.
Do you recall if Lori indicated how long Tammy had been possessed or dark before she passed away?
Maybe it wasn't more than 2 weeks, so it could have been less than 2 weeks, but it was a short period of time.
So Tammy becoming dark or possessed and her getting suspicious of the affair, to the best of your knowledge, happened around the same time?
About the affair part, I'm not sure, but the dark part is yes.
About 2 weeks before?
Correct.
Nate Eaton from EastIdahoNews.com. How is the jury responding to this?
The jury, many members have been taking frantic notes throughout the entire trial, writing stuff down. Others I've noticed have just stared directly at Lori Vallow. She's sitting directly across from them. They have a view right at her. And there have been times, Nancy, during this trial when they've shown the evidence photos that there have been tears. Some of the jurors have cried seeing the bodies of Tammy and JJ. So it's kind of a mix of emotions. What I haven't seen is any nodding off. I haven't seen any loss of attention. They have been laser focused on every witness thus far.
Now we wait as testimony unfolds in the courtroom. Goodbye, friend.
That ended faster than I thought for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why it did. I was looking at the screen, but. So, okay, that got us caught up. That was a lot to process. She's a freaking nut job and a half, but we already knew that. The last 3 years got us up to this point, you know. And I was wondering today, too, they found the bodies of JJ and Tylee in 2020, I believe it was. Yeah, 2020. I'm wondering if this case got, I mean, I know that there's a lot of big cases that get a lot of attention, but I'm wondering if this case got just that much more because so many people were like more, they were like more inside, or you know what I mean, like more remote. Because the internet is, you know, everywhere. So I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it too, because I know I was watching it play out. Nancy is the best, Cindy. I love her. She was funny tonight too. She was really funny tonight. She was on one. What's up with BK? Oh, well, last time I heard he was turning into a woman, but that's not true. But nothing really. What else something else? Oh, did you guys watch News Nation last night? Did you know what story they ran with? Give you a guess. I mean, I don't know. Something I've talked about that I've never heard anyone else ever talk about. And it wasn't what I was talking about in the chat either. So they went over Brian's Girls, the subreddit. They figured it out, I guess. I don't know how they did because the wording was even weird. So the other night I said on the live that the subreddit was called Brian's Girls. They spell Brian wrong on purpose. They spell it with an I, that way that they don't get like found out. And Ashley Banfield or whoever it was, I don't know, it was verbatim. They said that verbatim. And I was like, I think they are watching me. I'm not even kidding. Summer, I'm like, is people watching my little small channel over here for content? Because y'all, I can give you some content for sure. But so I'm just like, because I've never heard anyone talk about Brian's Nation, or Brian's Girls. I mean, Brian Nation was the old one. Because Brian's Girls has been out we've been talking about it for months. It's not like I just brought this up last week. I brought this up months ago. And I don't even think I put it in the title or anything. It's just weird. And then we were talking about it the other night because one of you guys in the chat had asked me about it. And so I pulled up the site. And I'm like, are you kidding? So, I don't know. She's undercover. Undercover agents in here. No, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Nancy. Maybe Nancy's in here. Nancy said she trolls. She already said that's how she met, what's his name? McDonough? That guy? Chris McDonough? Yeah, she said she was trolling for Brian Kohlberger content. Like, she straight admits it at least, so. I bet that would be good for PTSD, Parker Marie. Cooking and growing flowers. That would be good. I'm always on call. You are always on call. Yeah, you'll figure it out, Summer. She'll send me an email later and have it figured out. I have a bunch of recipes that I should, I need to like save them. I have my mom's old cooking book. You know, the orange cookbook, Betty Crocker cookbook? I have one of those, like legit from the 70s. And I still have it. And it has my grandmother's recipes in it. And I need to make sure that they're all like really nice in there. And then give it to my nieces or something, or I don't need it. I used to be super sentimental where I kept everything, but now I get rid of everything. Like I said today, like to Vince, I was like, why do I have pictures of people I don't know? Like I have a box of pictures. They're people that my parents knew, but I don't know them. And they're probably like, no offense, but they're probably not even no longer alive. And I don't know them. So I'm like, why am I keeping these people's pictures? Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to do, there's a thing, it's called, I think it's like the Swedish cleaning method. Basically, what you do is when you basically think of like when you're going to die, you just think of it like, hey, okay, I'm going to die. And think about all of the stuff that you've accumulated over your life. Look around your house right now. Look around your house, y'all. Think of all that stuff that you accumulated and think of who's that going to be on, whose hands is that going to be on when you're not here? Do you want to do that to that person? This is coming from somebody that's lost both parents. I'm just saying. And I didn't have a lot to work with at the end either because we had a fire and everything else. But it's a lot to deal with. That's why we were talking about the other day about when you lose a tooth. I was asking you guys, where do you guys keep the extra teeth and where do you keep them? Because one of these days, your children are going to come into your items, your stuff, and they're going to be like opening up a drawer, and they're going to open up your like underwear drawer, let's just say, or sock drawer, and there's going to be like some teeth in there. It might scare them. So don't scare your kids. You don't want to scare them. I know if I would have found a bunch of teeth, I would have been scared. I only found one. I don't know where she did with the rest. And that's one, I think I knew everything about my mom. And I think that's one thing that I can say. I think that's one thing I can say. I don't know what she did with my teeth. Maybe my brother has them. Because I don't see her getting rid of them. But maybe. Hopefully she did. Or my brother has a bunch of teeth in storage. He has all of her stuff in storage. I gave it to him. Like I took some and then he took I don't need anything. Like I want different stuff anyway. My mom had really cute style, but just different. You lost yours too, Dreamcatcher? Yeah, it sucks. So I can relate, Rich, when you said you missed your mom. I was missing my mom the other day real bad. I was like, I forget what it was. I forget what I was even thinking about. I was like, I missed that woman. She was funny. Funny as all get out. Like literally, she was very quick-witted. Quick-witted. Quicker than me. My mom had too many knickknacks. Mine too, Mike. And okay, so I am you do turn on your mom a little bit. Even if you don't want to, you do. I mean, I hope I'm half the woman my mom was. Like, I really do. But my mom used to, and I used to make fun of her. Okay, so my mom would have like 50 pictures to a wall overboard. It would look like a craft store. And you would see like on the back of them, like little price tags. She left the price tags on everything. And I'm like, Mom, why do you leave price tags on stuff? That's weird, you know? And like you could never see it. It'd be like tucked in or something. She's like, well, I want to know how much I paid for it. I do that. I mean, every picture I think I own I don't really think I have anything in here that's like a picture, but has a price tag on it. It's so bad. Good night, Jan. I'm getting ready to get off here soon too. Maybe, I don't know if Vincent's sleeping or not. He better not go to bed too early tonight. He has to work, and I'm like, he better not go to work early. Yeah, so now I do the same thing she does. I'm like, are you kidding? But I didn't notice it for the longest time. And I bought these pictures. I think I told you guys, I bought pictures from Hobby Lobby. And they're still not up. That was like 3 weeks ago. I'm going to put them up with command strips myself. Because I can't do hanger or like nails. No, not with one eye. Not anymore. I'll have a bunch of holes in the wall. It'll look ridiculous. Vincent will eventually do it for me. I'll just go out there and look at them because they're sitting on our couch right now, taking up room. Did you see my manatee cups? I'm going to have to get one. But tomorrow we'll do a live tomorrow. Not sure on what. Maybe Letitia, because today court wasn't really that exciting at all. I don't know if you guys watched any of the court, but today it wasn't. It was just like, it wasn't like boring, but it was just like blood splatter analysis and stuff. So it wasn't like, anybody that was on the stand that caught my attention, but I did watch most of it today. So, but I will see you guys all later. Ooh, Rich. Oh, you got the good cookbook. Sister's attempt. I won't say that very loud. That's funny. Well, I asked my brother the other day how mom used to make her pot roast, and he's like, I don't really remember. It wasn't my favorite. What? I've never heard my brother say he doesn't like anything. I've never heard him say he would eat it. He never told her that. But he never would because he was a mama's boy. He would have ate it and just shut his mouth. So I will see you guys all tomorrow. Don't forget to like the video if you could on the way out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're almost going to be there to 10,000 Titans to where we can get our Nancy Grace cardboard cutout. She's ready to be here. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye, guys.